Good morning. Welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, welcome. Welcome on this morning, which we make sacred by our presence together. A big welcome to people streaming. Let's give them a wave. Every Sunday we have 20 to 30 people streaming in, so it's hard to remember that when you're here in the pews, but we do have a whole community online joining us, and we're so glad that you are choosing to spend your Sunday morning with us as well. I'm Reverend Jessica Clay, your worship leader this morning and the minister of this church. Happy to be welcoming you to the service today with Kevin Badanis, our music director, Twinks Hastings, our Lifespan Religious Education director, and Barry Finkelstein, our capital campaign consultant. Barry Finkelstein is a Unitarian Universalist congregational stewardship consultant with Stewardship for Us. Over the past 15 years, Barry has worked with over 100 UU congregations on annual budget drives, capital campaigns, and financial and strategic planning. Barry is a professional management consultant who is blessed to work with his son Danny, supporting a range of nonprofit and other organizations. Barry is a passionate Unitarian Universalist, married to semi-retired UU minister Reverend Roberta Finkelstein, and they currently live in Alexandria, Virginia, around the corner from granddaughters Ainsley and Isla, who bring them great joy. Welcome, Barry. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
You can clap. I've trained them. Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel midweek. We do ask that all over the age of 4 mask while in our buildings. Please silence your cell phones at this time. We ask that all wear their name tags or fill out the sticker name tags in an effort to be more welcoming. We also welcome the noises, movements, and mirth that little ones bring in our services. Our services are 60 to 75 minutes long. If you need to leave before then, you're welcome to use the doors at the rear of the sanctuary. All are welcome to join us for our service next Sunday. Join Wilderness Sarechild and Chuck Medansky as they explore Memorial Day from a UU perspective. All are welcome next Sunday at 10 a.m. And does everybody know what's happening today at 11:30? I heard a no. Today at 11:30, so we will have the service, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll all come back into the sanctuary to hear from Barry about his findings. Barry has spent this weekend with us, talked to leaders, had an open forum yesterday, and he will be presenting his findings and recommendations for next steps towards a capital campaign after the service. So please do take care of whatever needs after the service and then come back in and join us for that to hear what his recommendations are for us. Also, it's May, so that means it's Split Plate nomination month. Have you sent in your Split Plate nomination form yet? No. Where do you find it? Does anybody? Online, good. I did not prompt the choir for that. I'll tell you that right now. You find it online. So, who likes the fact that we split our plate every week with a different organization? Literally everyone should raise their hands. And you can have a part in that by nominating an organization that's near and dear to your heart. So please do fill out that form online. Every single year, we don't get enough nominations for the year, so we end up looking at past years and picking organizations, and it would be great if this year we overflowed with a list. And big thanks to Roseanne Shapiro for taking over the Split Plate program. But the form is online, so don't email Roseanne unless you have problems with it, but fill out the form and she will get the list, and then we will start plugging them into services. So nominations are accepted until June 15th. Please do nominate organizations that are important to you so that we can help support them with our generosity. Welcome to our service today. It is so good to be together. Our call to worship and chalice lighting this morning is participatory. So I invite you to rise. The words are in your order of service, but first, Barry and I are going to speak, and then I will go like this to you, and it's your turn. Our words this morning, our chalice lighting and call to worship words are from Reverend Erica Hewitt. The word courage comes from the Latin cor, which means heart. According to poet Mark Nepo, the original use of the word courage meant to stand by one's core, a striking concept that reinforces the belief found in almost all traditions that living from the center is what enables us to face whatever life has to offer.
To encourage means to hearten, to impart strength and confidence. This is our work as a religious community, to encourage one another, to be bold in engaging the world around us, as well as what scares us internally, to give one another the confidence and heart to live as fully as possible.
With full hearts, we affirm our relationships with one another. We recognize our agency and our connective power, and we accept our responsibility to be bold and courageous. We light this chalice, the symbol of all that we are, all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages those within and beyond our walls.
Please remain standing as we sing together hymn 298, Wake Now My Senses. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry.
And we are going to stay risen for our affirmation. Our children and youth group are going to lead with our words, and then you can all respond with the italics. If you can all see this. We believe in love.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
We believe in truth.
The quest for truth is a sacrament.
We believe in helping others.
And service is our prayer.
We believe in the sacredness of life.
To the end that all souls shall grow into
Harmony with the divine.
Please be seated, and I'm going to invite all of our children up to the front. Good morning, everybody. We have some of our youth group here who you don't see too often because they come on a Sunday night. So there's our youth group. Here's our CYM. And this morning we're going to play a game of make-believe or let's pretend. Who likes to play let's pretend or make-believe? Some people? All right. Okay, so we're going to pretend we're on a television game show, my favorite kind of make-believe. And on this television game show, there are 2 doors. You have to choose between 2 doors. And if you open door 1, you get $1 million. Right? You just get $1 million for you. So that's choice 1. Choice 1. Choice 2, if you open door 2, for you all up here, everyone else in CYM gets $1 million, but you don't. Okay? So, Levi, if you open the door, everyone else down here gets $1 million, but you don't, and they can't share with you. Same for anyone. And for you all, if you open door 2, the 10 people round about you get $1 million, but you don't. So I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to think about what door you're going to open. And then I'm going to ask you which door you open, but I'm going to ask you really to think about why. Why would you open door 1 or door 2? And there's no right or wrong answers, okay? So let's think about it.
What's door 1?
You get $1 million.
Only you.
Only you. We should have a countdown clock, like, what's that song? Some good discussion in this corner. I like it. It's very youth group-esque. All right, does anyone have an answer they're willing to share and a why? Oh, good, we have Via.
I chose door 2 because I believe in giving to others.
Via's going to open door 2 because her value is giving to others. Anyone else have an answer? Can be one of you all too. There ain't no third door, such is life.
I choose door 2 because I have all that I need and I really get a big kick out of helping others.
Nice answer. Anyone else?
I don't need a mask because I'm very loud. But I'm just quoting what one of my neighbours said. She wants door 2, but she wants everybody to give her 10%.
So she said she wants door 2, but everyone has to give her 10%. There is a rule that you can't share with the person that opened the door, though. It's unfortunate. All right, one more answer, maybe? 2 more?
Well, at first I thought about number 2, but then I thought if I pick number 1, I could invest it and then distribute proceeds from interest on the $1 million and serve the people.
Smart thinking. So remember, a long time ago, we did that Time for All Ages where we had money, but if you invested it, you got more money. So that was her thinking. Roger?
Well, if you use the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would like themselves to be dealt with, I'd take number 2.
Thank you. What about any of you down here? Are you going to pick door number 1 or 2? Are you going to keep the $1 million, or are you going to give everyone else $1 million? No one wants to answer. Any idea? Undecided. Okay. Great. So this game of Let's Pretend is interesting because it's the asking why helps us hear our motivations, what causes us to make certain choices. When we talk about the choices we make to live out our values in community, we're talking about our ethics. And there are lots of sources of ethical guidance. For example, John Stuart Mill was a 19th century philosopher who used the term utilitarianism to describe choosing actions that will create the greatest happiness or the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So which door would create the greatest impact for the greatest number of people? Door 2, right? And sometimes some different religions give us ethical instructions, like the Golden Rule, or as we learned last time, the Platinum Rule. But there are also other ways to think about this decision, like it's important to care for ourselves, and sometimes caring for ourselves comes first. And maybe your neighbors would use the $10 million in ways that are less responsible, and maybe your family really needs the money. So one of the things we do in this congregation, and one of the things we're doing this weekend, is asking questions of the why we do the things we do. And this is our friend Barry. Did you all meet Barry or see him earlier? And he's here to help us this weekend to ask some questions and wonder and think about our motives and ethics and values and what makes us keep coming here to First Parish. And what are the things that make it special here? And what would we do if we had a magic door that we could open and give us $10 million? And in that, sometimes our questions and conversations and our wonderings are more important than the answers. And so with that, we will sing our children out, and you can all wonder on that question.
Now is our time for prayer and meditation. How many of you spent some time in the garden this week? How many of you spent some time enjoying other people's gardens this week? So I found this prayer and I thought it was perfect for this time we are in. So I invite you to settle into your seats. If you have something in your hands, to set it down. Cast your eyes down or close them and receive the gift of this gardening prayer from Reverend Bob Janice Dillon. It begins with a quote from May Sarton. Help us to be the always hopeful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness, nothing comes to birth, as without light, nothing flowers. May Sarton. O Spirit of soil and sunlight, endless energy of growth, cycle of life and death and rebirth, God of small things and great, help us to be the always hopeful gardeners of the Spirit. Help us to prune back our worst impulses, the parts of ourselves that can lead to needless hurt in others. Help us to trim back our greed, root out our apathy, if we find we are overshadowing anyone else's growth by our own selfish desires. Help us to lessen ourselves and make room for others. And help us to grow all the good things of our lives. God, we see around us many examples of abundant beauty. We do not know if we could create such beauty on our own, but we don't need to. No, we partner with you, with the wind and the rain and the soil and sunlight to bring beauty forth. So we are encouraged that we might participate in grace, that we might dig a little trench where the seeds of kindness may be planted. We know there is a time of waiting in all things, when we rest in darkness. Sometimes that time of waiting can be days or weeks or even years. Help us to see the darkness's role in germinating new wonder into the world. Help us to see the small sprigs of joy and meaning that are struggling to rise from the ground. Let us be gardeners of the Spirit. Let us tend to this gentle power that has helped us become who we are and nourishes us always, even unto the end. In our daily acts, we strive to serve the growth of life and of goodness and of love. We are proud to serve and delighted to see the natural magnificence that is our portion and our inheritance, the growth of all the good and beautiful things of this life. Amen. We'll now enter a time of silence. I'd like to invite the board up for our reading. And present are all the members of the board except Bill Roberts. So this lets you get to know who your board is. If you have questions, you can talk to them after the service. So John, you should be over here. And you get to watch them coordinate lineup. We didn't practice this beforehand. There we go, perfect.
This reading is from Why I Go to Church from On Going to Church by Reverend A. Powell Davies. Let me tell you why I come to church. I come to church and would, whether I was a preacher or not, because I fall below my own standards and need to be constantly brought back to them. It is not enough that I should think about the world and its problems at the level of a newspaper report or a magazine discussion. It could too soon become too low a level.
I must have my conscience sharpened. sharpened until it goads me to the most thorough and responsible thinking of which I am capable. I must feel again the love I owe my fellow people. I must not only hear about it, but feel it. In church, I do.
I need to be reminded that there are things I must do in the world, unselfish things, things undertaken at the level of idealism. Workaday enthusiasms are not enough. They wear out too soon.
I want to experience human nature at its best and be reminded of its highest possibilities, and this happens to me in church. It may seem as though the same things could be found in solitude, but it does not easily happen so. In a congregation, we share each other's spiritual needs and reinforce each other. In some ways, the soul is never lonelier than in a church service.
That is certainly true of a pulpit, for a pulpit is the most intimately lonely place in the world, yet it is a loneliness that has strength in it. Perhaps this is because the innermost solitude of the human heart is in some paradoxical way a thing that can be shared, that must be shared if the Spirit of God is to find a full entrance into it.
We meet each other as friends and neighbors anywhere and everywhere, but we seldom do so in the consciousness of our soul's deepest yearnings. But in church we do, in a way that protects us from all that is intrusive, yet leaves us knowing that we all have the same yearning, the same spiritual loneliness, the same need for assurance and faith and hope. We are brought together at the highest level possible. We are not merely an audience, we are a congregation.
I doubt whether I could stand the thought of cruelty and misery of the present world unless I could know, through an experience that renewed itself over and over again, that at the heart of life there is assurance, that I can hold an ultimate belief that all is well. And this happens in church.
Life must have its sacred moments and its holy places. The soul will always seek its nurture. For religious experience, which is life at its best, life at its most intense, is something we cannot do without.
Thank you, members of the board. Each week, we have the practice of splitting our offertory plate, as I already spoke about earlier. This morning's offering is a split plate with No More Deaths. The mission of No More Deaths is to end death and suffering in the Mexico-U.S. borderlands. Their volunteer-based projects address different dimensions of the suffering caused by current policies towards migration, immigration, and border policing. No More Deaths maintains a year-round humanitarian presence in the deserts of southwest Arizona. Volunteers hike the trails and leave water, food, socks, blankets, and other supplies. Under the direction of their medical team, volunteers provide emergency first aid treatment to individuals in distress. Volunteers also research, document, and expose patterns of abuse against people crossing the border at the hands of Border Patrol and other government agencies. There are a couple of ways you can give today. You can text to give. The number is in your order of service. You can make out a check to First Parish Brewster and either mail it in or put it in the offertory box, or put cash in the offertory box. If you are streaming, you can give on our website or mail a check or cash in as well, indicating that it's for the split plate and today's date. However you choose to give today, we thank you for your generosity. The offertory will now be gratefully received.
The First Parish Brewster UU Choir is open to all without audition. We will sing one more time as a group this church year on the 12th of June, the day of the annual meeting. If you have the availability and the would love to try out the choir, please come this Wednesday at 6:15 in anticipation of our last Sunday sing.
Thank you for the beautiful music. It has been so good to be with you this weekend. I thank all of you for spending time with me. Had a wonderful time, which I'll talk more about in the workshop this afternoon and a little bit, or later this morning, and a little bit during my message right now. But better together. What a wonderful thought to begin the day. So, how many of you are jazz fans? Anybody like jazz here? Oh, more than usual, I would say. Now, I know. So I've loved playing jazz, mostly, oddly enough, on the accordion, since I was about 10 years old. I know. Now, the magic of jazz, both for the performers and the audience, is the coming together of multiple elements and the balancing of freedom and structure. These elements include melody, harmony, discord, rhythm, solos, collaborative play. In a single tune, there might be multiples of each of these things, polychords, polyrhythms, as we say. Now, the great thing about the accordion is that you can do all this yourself. You can be a one-person jazz ensemble, playing all the parts, bass, chords, melody, solos, sound like a whole orchestra. And I've done that. But of course, jazz, like so many other things, is better, much better, when we're together. Now, I've been playing jazz, as I said, for a very long time, and in different venues with different people. The most rewarding and engaging has been in Unitarian Universalist congregations, and I've now been in 3 jazz ensembles in different churches where my wife has served. And I've come to see jazz as something of a metaphor for Unitarian Universalism. Think about it. We have multiple voices coming together, sometimes but not always to blend, and always to remain both distinct and together in community. To me, there's some magic there. Always distinct and yet together in community. So what does it take to make that happen? In jazz, it requires common commitment to a structure and a vision for the tune we're playing and the group we're a part of. We have to know why we're playing, what we're trying to say, and how in general the parts will fit together. We want some but not too much structure, so free solos are possible, but the solos are constrained by the group's commitment to the structure of the piece and to the group vision. And most of the time, we also need a leader to count us in and just keep the whole thing together. Now, each musician develops and deepens their own sense of the music as they play together, and the whole gets better and better. I heard an interview with a bass player once who said that he saw his role as supporting, enveloping, and uplifting the other musicians. Isn't that really part of our commitment as Unitarian Universalists to one another? Isn't our wonderful faith just like that? We come together around a set of principles and purposes, and we build faith communities much like this one, and much like jazz ensembles, to promote our individual and communal growth and our service to the world, making the music of love and justice and faith development and welcoming and working for a better world for all. Now, the structure required to sustain a church community, like First Parish Brewster, goes beyond the principles and purposes to encompass all of the assets that we bring together to make this all happen. Our staff, our volunteers, organizational and governance structure, and of course the beautiful campus and buildings that house all of it. Basically, all of the assets that we have at our disposal. Now, I'm blessed right now to be able to play with a jazz ensemble at the church that I'm a member of in Alexandria, Virginia. My spirit soars and my jazz playing deepens whenever I get together to play with this group. Now, of course, there are other elements of Unitarian Universalism that draw my passion. I'm an OWL teacher and think there's obvious magic and life-saving work there. I work on social justice, and I'm fiercely dedicated to widening the circle of Unitarian Universalism in many ways. And of course, as you know from my presence here, I'm called to strengthen stewardship to support all of that and everything else that we UUs do. You knew I would get to stewardship at some point. So I've come to see stewardship as being about taking care of what is most important to us. When I started my work as a stewardship consultant 15 years ago, I thought I should look up definitions of stewardship. There must be all kinds of wisdom about stewardship, which of course goes back thousands of years. And what I found that made the most sense to me was in that ancient fount of wisdom, Wikipedia. And it went something like this: stewardship is taking care of something we do not own. And I like the concept of that, because we are, after all, and this is more obvious here than in many places, only temporary stewards of our wonderful congregations. None of you, of course, were here at the founding of First Parish in, what, 1700? Did I get the date right? 1700. And none of you will be here long after our time, when this church and this congregation and our children and grandchildren will do all kinds of things we can scarcely imagine. But now is our time to be the stewards of this wonderful congregation. But stewardship is also much more than about raising money. Stewardship taps into a deep well of human and Unitarian Universalist generosity of spirit, which is enriching, and it deepens our connections to one another, our covenant with one another. Yesterday, during the afternoon workshop, attended by about 35 people, we did an exercise. I invited people to think about a time when they either gave or received the perfect gift to another person, and what that connection felt like. And we talked a little bit about that, and I invite you to think about that sometime on your own. What's the perfect gift that you have ever received or given, and how did that make you feel, and what was the connection like to the other person? Giving and receiving are powerful connections. I noticed that the words show up in Wake Now Our Senses about giving and receiving. They're powerful human connections, they're powerful spiritual connections, and they're part of the stewardship engagement. Now, in the 15 years that I've consulted with UU congregations, I've come to love stewardship. And again, not just as a way to raise funds, but as a way to really bring the congregation together. I've learned also that stewardship in our churches is very different from fundraising in other nonprofit organizations, important though that may be. A couple of differences that I want to draw your attention to are, first, we are it, right? You all probably know this, but it's not always spoken, but we are the supporters of this congregation for this time right now. There's nobody else. So whatever you want from this congregation, whatever you want this congregation to be doing in the world is completely up to you. Or almost completely up to you, let's say. And our churches are also different because they're based on covenants that we make with one another, and to our congregation, and to the broader faith, and to the world community. We're not asked to adhere to a creed, but we are asked to covenant, make promises with one another, and one of those promises is to be stewards of our congregations. Now, as I said, it's been wonderful to be here with you this weekend. I came away from all of the meetings that I had totally jazzed. I heard moving stories about lives transformed here and people lovingly supported here, and about world-changing results. This is your community, your family. You have so much to be proud of. And while I love talking about all things stewardship, I especially love capital campaigns. Capital campaigns have the potential to open the magic door that Twinks talked about for you. They really are magic producers. A capital campaign is a once-a-generation opportunity to give back and invest in the future. They tap into deep spiritual needs of Unitarian Universalists as individuals and as parts of faith communities. And capital campaigns are as much about community building as they are about building. They create confidence and strengthen governance and leadership. They provide opportunities to involve new people. It's much easier to get brand new people to help you on the capital campaign, and I'll share some ways to do that in the next session. They also enable you to involve youth and children and pretty much everybody. They help strengthen the covenants between us. They provide opportunities for people with high economic capacity to participate at high levels, but equally important, they provide opportunities for everyone to participate and everyone to contribute in meaningful ways. Perhaps most important, they generate energy and excitement, so needed right now as we come out of the pandemic era. And they bring out the best in us. So be sure to involve everyone and get everyone pumped up as you take these next steps forward. As I said, everyone can play a part, better together. And the end result is a deep sense of communal pride and accomplishment, a basis for tackling other big challenges, especially widening the circle of Unitarian Universalism. Now, we have a very well-developed process for capital campaigns and a lot of experience tailoring it to individual congregations, which is what I'm about working with you. After the service, I'll share with you what I've learned about First Parish Brewster and the ways I think you can proceed forward. But I want to leave you with two thoughts here right now. First, you are an amazing congregation. I have been so impressed with your resilience, coming through some incredibly challenging and difficult times. As I heard during my meetings, you pull together and take care of this community and of each other. That will position you well for the next steps that I have in mind. And second, I encourage you to trust the process. This is really critical to success. All 300 plus of you cannot plan the design or the details of this project together. That's just not going to work. You have to trust the people that you delegate as leaders, and you have to trust the process to go through and participate when called on. Play key roles when asked. Like in jazz, you all have roles to play, sometimes soloing, sometimes uplifting and nurturing the soloists. Your individual voices are super important at various stages, as is the coming together to rally around the common vision and purpose. So please join me after the service for more conversation.
Dr. Raymond Wise is an inspiring gospel musician and music leader. His advice to choirs for whom this music is not in our history, it's to embrace its authenticity, embrace its spirit, and one thing that he mentioned was that to try to always get your congregation as involved as possible. So on that last page, I will invite you to rise with the choir and sing with them, and we'll do this together in spirit.
Passing
what Barry said about jazz? You didn't know. And you did great. So yesterday at the open forum, with Barry, he asked another question in addition to the one that he mentioned in his homily. He said, think of a time when something really special happened at First Parish Brewster. Think of that time and bring it to your mind. And then think of what makes First Parish Brewster special. Like, what in that moment made this place so special, this community so special? We then turned to each other and shared these stories one-on-one, sharing how this place, this community has made an impact. And after that, we passed the microphone around and shared what was so special about First Parish Brewster. So I invite you to take a moment and think of a time when something really special for you happened here. Don't use this to think about what you're going to have for lunch later. Think about a time when something really special happened here. And think about what it was that allowed this to happen. What makes this place special? I'm guessing you have some of the same answers as the people in the room. Can you shout out, what makes this place special?
Cooperation.
Cooperation?
Trust.
Trust?
The people.
The people at the same time. That was
Creativity.
creativity. Working together. Social justice. Open-mindedness. Coffee hour. Music. Oh, bless you. Me? CYM. What about from the balconies? I heard reaching out to our community, spirit and tolerance. Lovely. Thank you. Yes, so all these things and more are a part of what makes this place special. So last week, you'll remember that I preached about finding your own personal North Star, that thing that drives you and makes you get out of bed in the morning. And this weekend, this Next Steps weekend, as we're on this verge of a capital campaign, we get to collectively think about what our collective North Star is, about how we are all pilgrims together on our own personal pilgrimages, coming to this place with a collective pilgrimage of what we hope this place will be by our collective dreaming, and about what makes this place so special. And we get to think about those people that gathered on this spot whose names are on this plaque over here: Nathaniel, Thomas, William, John, another Thomas, Edward, Simon, and Joseph, who said 322 years ago, we're going to form a religious community here. And we get to think about the people whose names aren't on that plaque who were also a part of that. Because it didn't take just 8 men to form that community. Just gonna say that. But this community said, we are going to form a religious community here. This is going to be a meeting house for this town, a place for people to gather, not only to connect with God, but to connect with each other. And that all the people that have gathered in this place since have come and given time and the gifts of their monetary resources and the gifts of their talents, because their individual North Stars guided them here. And the collective North Star of this community is what has helped them propel them into the future. So I want you to imagine for a moment, the year is 2100. So we're 88 years in the future. At that point, there will have been a congregation here for 400 years. What do you envision that looks like? Who do you envision sitting in these pews? What would it sound like? What do the other buildings on our property look like at that point? And what place does this congregation have in the wider community at that point? So I invite you to share some of these imaginings with each other after the service. But yesterday, when people talked about the special things that occurred in the history of this congregation, one of the things they named was the last time that you did a capital campaign. And the first service, when you came back, that this church, for those that are visiting or weren't here during that time, did a capital campaign to fix up this sanctuary and met in a school down the road. And the first service back was Christmas Eve. And there was a collective feeling of accomplishing something. And those people gave to that capital campaign for us to sit in these pews right now. And we are reaping the benefits many years later of that capital campaign. For example, this sanctuary is not balancing on a tree stump anymore. And our building is so well maintained and taken care of in part because of that capital campaign and also because of our building and maintenance committee. We embark on projects like this not just for ourselves, but for the people who will come after us and for the future we want to create for this place, which has made such a difference in our lives. We want it to continue to make a difference for people's lives in the future. We want to widen our circle of welcome in many more ways than we are limited to right now. And sometimes during the weekend, people talked about concerns around, well, is this the right time to do this? And Barry told us sometimes people want to wait for the right time, but there's always going to be something that says this isn't the right time. But that churches benefit from collectively getting behind things together. And the truth of this church that I know after serving you for 5 years is that when you come together on something, it happens in amazing and profound ways. When we ask you to show up for things, you do because this place and these people matter to you, and the legacy that you're leaving behind matters to you. We may have all come here as individual pilgrims, as people coming on our own, or maybe with a partner or family, but when we come and join this community, we become a part of something bigger than ourselves. We are connected to this faith which spans centuries, and we are connected to Unitarian Universalists all over the world. And we're connected to people in this community and responsible for people in this community. So some of you may remember that over and over again during our visioning process of figuring out what you wanted in this campaign, which we did several years ago, people said we want to widen our circle of welcome. And that's what this draft of our vision came from on the back of your order of service. People said we want to make this place a community place that can serve the community in many ways, that's accessible, that can serve meals in the community, that can be a place where community leaders can go to when they need space, when they need a place to center for the work of creating a more just and equitable world. So I'm excited for what our future brings for all of us pilgrims with our following of our collective North Star. I'm excited about the possibilities of what we can do together, of how we can transform this place that is so special to us. So I will end with a favorite poem of mine that has been used many times in worship and will be again in the future because it's just so good. It's by Marge Piercy, To Be of Use. The people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Haupi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. You are the people that I love best. Let's dig into this work that is real and dream of the future that we want to create for those that are here long after we are gone. Are you in?
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. Please rise in body and or spirit as we sing our closing song from the Teal hymnal. It is 1021, and it is Lean on Me, and I will take you through the map as we go.
Dear ones, you may exit this place, but please return for our forum with Barry. And when you leave for the day, may you go knowing that you are a blessing to this community, you are a blessing to me, and you are a blessing to the world. Amen.
I'll leave this here.
Well done.
Oh, thank you.
No, we're not going to sing it for
Thank you.
We'll be back. All right. Good to hear.
And I heard that instead of this summer, you're offering music theory and voice lessons.
Yeah, we're learning, so we'll replace it. We'll still do choir on Sunday, but pickup choir. We come at 9.
Oh, cool.
Once in a while we'll do that. We'll sport on Wednesday. But maybe tonight we'll do music theory, how to restore, things like that, your training. And then in August, there is we're going to teach what's class. Come as you are, go,
I'm sure there'll be a couple of weeks for late July and early August. Yeah. But one of the joys of participating, I think everybody at some point should be one more thing, though. I think it was the last choir rehearsal before I left, you had mentioned, like,
and we'll do it after service. So for instance, the service is ending now, and we'll have fellowship, and then we'll start a recital in about 30 minutes, and then have it right after, and then people can go right and come back. So if you're interested, oh, absolutely, that would be wonderful.
I actually was going to do open